Hello, Dharma friends. I'm so happy that you can join me today. Let's begin by placing our palms together in Gasho. From the Dhammapada, the teachings of the Buddha. In this world, hostilities are never appeased by hostility, but by the absence of hostility are they appeased. This is the interminable truth. For hate is not conquered by hate. Hate is conquered by love. This is the law eternal. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Naman Labs, Naman Labs, Naman Labs, Naman Labs. Hello again, Dharma friends. I'm very pleased that we could come together today. For those of you who have been paying attention to what's happening in the world and watching the crisis unfold in Ukraine, it's been a very challenging week. It's actually been inescapable. It's all over the TV, internet, social media, conversations amongst colleagues and friends and acquaintances. It seems in many ways that the world is burning. It's very difficult to comprehend. And for me, having served in the US military during the Cold War and during the first Gulf War, some 30 years ago, this is bringing back a lot of memories of how the world was then. And watching the suffering of the people of Ukraine as they either prepare to defend their homeland or escape, into neighboring countries, or being hunkered down and trapped in their cities and towns and villages because their escape routes have been cut off, or they just cannot fathom, leaving their homeland. This began so suddenly a week ago, and I cannot imagine what that must be like just to pick up everything and leave, or to see your beautiful parks and communities completely obliterated by rocket and shell fire. It's been a very difficult time, and my heart goes out to them. And despite what is happening in Ukraine, we know that suffering is something that is not limited to just that part of the world. We know that in Myanmar, there's uprisings. In China, there's persecution. In Hong Kong and amongst the Uyghur Muslim population. In the Caribbean and Africa and South America and Central America, there's conflict and strife and suffering. And even in our own country, it seems like we are still struggling ourselves. So it's a very challenging time. And watching things take place in Ukraine, though, it does hit a little bit closer to home. Our news media tends to report that a bit more. So we're watching this unfold in real time for people. We're seeing children separated from their fathers, mothers taking up arms, people in government, IT, social services, people who are not trained to fight, deciding that they need to fight to protect their homeland, to protect their freedoms, to protect their happiness that they've worked so hard to establish over the last 30 years since they broke away from the former Soviet Union. And suffering is not exclusive to them either. For in this conflict, it's very difficult to fathom this part, but yet, even though it seems like there's very clearly good guys and bad guys, even the Russian soldiers, mere babies, mere children themselves, who have barely tasted life, are being thrust into conflict and violence and don't understand what's happening. It's a very difficult time. And so when times are difficult, I tend to turn to the teachings of the Buddha to try to make sense of what is happening, or to find an opportunity to maybe still my own heart to my own concerns and fears, and to somehow send out loving thoughts and kindness to people who are in suffering, even though I know that my thoughts going out do not help. But for me, it does help calm me. And so one of the things I've been doing the past several days is practicing meditation, where I try to cultivate within myself this desire to be happy, to be free, and to be safe, and then to recognize that others have that same desire and to wish that for them. And that helps keep my mind from snowballing into extreme, sadness, frustration, and even anger. It helps to calm me down and maybe watch things as they're unfolding and be observant of the suffering and the struggles of so many people and try to think about how can I help. So the quote that I shared at the beginning came from the Dhammapada, which are the teachings of the Buddha. And the first part of the quote says this: "In this world, hostilities are never appeased by hostility, but by the absence of hostility are they appeased. This is the interminable truth." So basically saying that violence does not end violence. Passive resistance, treating each other with kindness and respect and dignity, can end violence. Even our founder Shinran, his teacher Honnen Shonin, entered the monastery when he was a young child himself after his father had been mortally wounded by an assassination attempt. And as his father lay dying on the floor and he beckoned his son to him, he told him, "I want you to understand that revenge will get us nowhere. You seek revenge on my death and kill, the son of the one who killed me, then that son will grow up and wish to seek further revenge on our family." So his father asked him to find the solution to this and encouraged him to become a Buddhist priest, which Honnen did. So that's one example. We know that Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, countless others have also said that passive resistance, peaceful resistance is the way to go. So it's something that's very easy to say, but I do struggle with that particular teaching, having been, again, a Marine veteran during the Cold War, having seen what has happened in other countries where people have few rights or abilities to take care of themselves. It's hard to understand and realize that, sometimes maybe arms are necessary. It's very difficult to come to terms with that. But I'm a human being. We all are human beings. We're not Buddhists, right? So it's very difficult to see how can we possibly end what's happening in Ukraine peacefully. Yet we must, as they say, give peace a chance. So my truest hope and desire is that calmer minds will prevail and realize that this is not the way to go. The other part of that quote, I can understand a little bit better, coming from just a regular human being perspective, but also as a Buddhist. Hate is not conquered by hate. Hate is conquered by love. And this is the law eternal. We have to remember in these times when we're struggling, not just outside ourselves, but within ourselves, we need to recognize hate and what it can do to our hearts and our minds and find a way to cultivate love, even in the face of things we don't understand or cannot possibly fathom, even the things that we can barely empathize with. We need to do our best to cultivate as much love for other people. And so, as I was preparing for this Dharma message and thinking about all of this, there was another quote that came from someone whom I grew up with, who I admire greatly, who was not a Buddhist, was a Christian minister, but I'm sure was a bodhisattva in disguise on earth. And that man was Mr. Rogers. So I'd like to share a quote from him, if I may. "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.' To this day, especially in times of disaster, I remember my mother's words, and I'm always comforted by realizing that there are still so many helpers, so many caring people in this world." And so that quote from Mr. Rogers made me recognize the goodness that I'm seeing unfold in Poland and Romania and other countries of people coming to assist the refugees that are streaming out of Ukraine, people who are opening up their homes, driving people tens of hours to their countries so that they may be safe and feel normal and welcomed and know that they're okay for that moment. There's people donating food and sending supplies. There's people holding rallies across the world denouncing what is happening. And so even though it's very difficult to watch the war occur in Ukraine, the bright part of this is the fact that there is so much compassion out there. And sometimes we miss seeing that compassion, but it is there. And so I encourage all of you in your moments of despair to think about, how can I help? And if you don't know, turn to others, see what they're doing. There is always hope. And so what can we do in our day-to-day lives? You know, if you cannot donate, if you cannot send supplies, if you cannot give money, what can we do to cultivate love and happiness and caring here? Because whatever happens in the world starts here. It starts in our country, in our community, and inside each of us. It starts here. So it's as simple as waving to a stranger, saying hi to your neighbor, donating a couple of cans of food to a food bank, opening a door for somebody at the grocery store, while you're on your way to work, letting someone into your lane of traffic. And when someone does that for you, just waving and say, hey, I see you, thank you. And always remember, the easiest gift to give anyone is a smile. So whether, you know, masks are starting to come off now, so we can smile like this. But even if your mask is still on, remember, people know when you're smiling. So you can always wave. So those are some very simple things that we can do. It starts here. And just like a drop falling into a calm pool of water and you see the ripple effect, if we all just take a little extra time to show compassion and love and concern for others, that ripple effect can extend across the whole world. So thank you so much for listening today. I hope that each and every one of you stays safe and healthy. Let's end this time together by, again, putting our hands together in Gasho. Hate is not conquered by hate. Hate is conquered by love. This is the law eternal. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs, Naman Nobs. Thank you, everyone. I hope to see you all very soon. Please take care. Bye-bye.